right, Don, whenever you look at the history of Penske, there's a name that always comes up, and it's Mark Donohue. Can you tell us a little bit about who Mark was?
Mark was the nicest guy you'd ever want to meet. that's it in a nutshell. Yeah, he was pretty quiet, and he was he was an engineer. He was a real thoughtful person. He was stubborn as hell. When he thought he was right, he was just going to stick to his guns until the boat floated, So I loved being around him, just talking to him, listening to him tell little stories and stuff like that. I look back and I think about all the things that transpired while he was still with us, and he was such a genuine person. But when you get into a discussion, a heated one, I remember one time when he got into a discussion with our chief engineer back then, who was also a really good friend of mine. His name was Don Cox, and he was a General Motors guy, and he was really a genius. He was a guy that really designed and helped build the sucker car that won all the road races until it was outlawed. But one time, and this is funny because we were talking earlier about the return of IROC, and I remember when we started with the IROC cars, they had Porsches, and Roger said, these are really wonderful cars, and they were beautiful cars, and so we were going to put all these stock car guys in a Porsche and run them on the road course, and we had to make all kinds of, the guys at the shop had made a lot of changes in it, and one of the things was that Mark wanted a complete different shock and spring package, because it was going to run on some ovals, it was going to require more spring. And so he ordered these springs, and the springs came, and they went to try and put them in the car, and of course they wouldn't fit. Somebody at the factory screwed up, or I don't know what happened, I really don't. But it got heated really fast. And, he go, I gotta get these things in the car, I gotta get them to work. And Cox kept saying, they're not gonna work, Mark, they're not gonna work. And finally, Cox really lost his marbles, and he said, damn it, Mark. He said, you can't make a silk purse out of a sow's ear. We all cracked up, everybody but Mark. He didn't crack up, he didn't think that was so smart. But anyway, they resolved that they got different springs, and they hacked them up, and they made everything work, and it worked out good in the IROC race with the Porsches. I can't even remember who won, but I think Mark won, in fact. I think Mark won. I know Bobby Unser was a factor. It was a whole different world back then, and whenever I look back, I don't know, I think of Mark in a different light than most people. He was never the kind of person that would rub you the wrong way intentionally. He didn't do that. He thought it was a waste of time. And he was a real deep thinker. And when we lost him, it was like right after I had lost my leg, and I was, oh, what the heck, what's going to happen next? And I know Roger really seriously contemplated, just stop racing. It took the life of his really close friend, and but he continued on, and he got us all to think positive about everything. And when I look back and I think about history, and I think about racing, and I think about Mark Donohue, and I smile, because he was that kind of a guy, and he will always be that kind of guy in my book.